Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I have to say, first and foremost, an apology to my brother there. I'm not low-key, just in case. And secondly, just before Joe nips out, I'd really like to say what a great honor every time I share a platform with Joe and hear him speaking. He's a true inspiration, and people like him have to suffer the consequences of living by what they believe in. They are the trailblazers, they are the pioneers, they are the people that speak out when everyone is telling them that the right thing to do is to stay quiet. And they will suffer the consequences. They will be sent to jail, they will be demonized, they will be tarnished in a very, very grim and dark light. However, we have learned from history that sometime down the line they will be remembered as true heroes, as people who spoke the truth and people who suffered as a consequence. I think it's absolutely tremendous that Joe was with us tonight, and that you managed to interact with him before he left, because I think that voices like that are extremely instrumental and quite vital to the continuing validity of our movement. This movement that we started nigh on 10 years ago, believing that the way in which the world was going to respond to 9/11. By the way, the other day my son, I'm doing a thesis on the institutionalization of Islam in Britain post 9/11. It's a rubbish topic anyway, but I've been going on and on about it. My 8-year-old son came to me and said, you know what, I really don't understand. What's so important that happened on the 9th of November? Why are you going on and on about the 9th of November? Anyway, the whole world was moving in a particular direction after 9/11, but we said that that was wrong, and it was going to create a chaos like no one imagined. We were rubbished. We were told that it would be a matter of weeks, possibly a couple of months, and then Afghanistan would be liberated, a democratic government would be installed, the poppy trade and the opium trade would be closed down, Afghani women would be celebrating in their newfound garments from Littlewoods and from Marks and Spencer's in the streets of Kabul, that the whole region would be touched by the Afghani experience and hence welcome a similar sort of transformation. This was 9 years ago. Just look at where we are today and what we're reading every single day about what's going on in Afghanistan, and you consider whether this has been not only a miserably failed attempt, but also an immoral one. Now, just yesterday, the Chancellor announced cuts. And the very first target were not the cuts to the bankers, whom we're told, by the way, that this Christmas may get up to £7 billion. £7 billion, not in salaries, but in bonuses. Bankers in the city just down the road from here. Not them, no. But child benefits. Child benefits for the rich. Who are they kidding? My next door neighbor spoke to me yesterday, and she's a single mother with 3 children. She tells me that she earns £48,000. Yet every single month her credit card statement increases by £400, simply because she can't afford the mortgage, the fuel, the bills, the phone bills. She can't afford putting her children through school and all the activities in order so that they can live a normal life. She can't afford all that. So the rich who earn 44,000 in George Osborne's eyes deserve not to be paid child benefit. I thought at one stage that child benefit was the right of the child. It had nothing to do with the parents. But that seems to be something that has totally changed. Now I'm told that I have 5 minutes left, and I have a lot to say, but anyway. Why has no one spoke of cuts in terms of the war chest? Why has no one spoke of the billions upon billions upon billions of pounds that we spend? Why? To burn people's houses down, to kill their children, to kill their women. Now, they will say, that's not our intention. Somehow I believe that. I can find it in my hand to believe that. But ultimately, that is what war is about. And anyone who tells you different knows nothing about war. Ultimately, the first people who die in war are not the people who are carrying arms. It's the civilians in their homes and houses. Those are the very first line of defense. You go into war, you're going to kill innocent people. That's the bottom line. That's whom the people who follow the ideology of Donald Rumsfeld call collateral, a necessary loss. So no cuts to the billions and billions of pounds that we spend obliterating an entire nation, but cuts to child benefit here in the UK. Now, we can talk long, and I don't have time to talk about the impact of the war on Afghanistan. Let's discuss what's happening in Afghanistan. Let's talk about what's happening in Afghanistan. Over the past nine years, countless, and literally I mean countless, Afghani civilians have been killed. And why countless? Simply because no one cares to count. Because we don't know. Because in a sense, it doesn't really do us any favors to point out that a drone managed to obliterate 70 people of a single family in a wedding ceremony. Simply because they were taken, for people who are transporting stuff at night. Well, yeah, maybe it's the wedding cake. But no one cares to count. Because counting does us no favors whatsoever. Women and children. Have you seen any women and children liberated? Have you seen any people dancing in the streets of Kabul or anywhere else throughout Afghanistan lately? I haven't. And what about the Taliban and Al-Qaeda? Now, I heard what Joe said. And the fact is that both Al-Taliban and Al-Qaeda are far stronger than they were in 2001. In fact, they are so strong that now we are sitting across a table talking to them. Not only that, we're pushing Karzai, the Afghan president, to actually sit across the table and talk to them. We're paying the Pakistanis to sit across the table and talk to them. So 9 years round, we have come full circle, and now those whom we waged war against for the past 9 years, killing in the process countless civilians, burning down a country and a nation, now we're sitting across the table negotiating with. So they are far stronger than they ever were in 2001. But what about the impact on us here at home? Because there is. And Joe is just one sign of that. But we can speak on and on and on. We can talk about the issue, something that I'm doing the rounds now and speaking in universities and many places, is the issue of Islamophobia. Now, no one is talking about this, but do you know that there are, according to statistics that were carried out by an independent think tank in February of this year, that almost 35% of those returning from tours of duty in Afghanistan and previously in Iraq, they would come and join or be extremely sympathetic with the BNP. Imagine someone who was taken from his estate in Glasgow or in the Midlands as a 17-year-old, knowing nothing better, being given a uniform and a weapon, having the only choice in his life, either this or a life on the streets in crime or drugs, or this, a life of discipline and fed, as Joe said, patriotism, serving your country, and then shipped away to a faraway land which he or she couldn't even pinpoint on a map, to fight, to kill, to be scared as hell for months on end, feeling that everyone at every single moment of every single day and night wants to chop your head off and to kill you. And then returning back, and the first sight you see stepping off the plane are people who look like they come from those lands. It's an extremely disturbing issue from the mental and psychological point of view. And therefore immediately, and as many said, the enemy is here, the enemy is amongst us. And that enemy, as they see it, is taking over their homes, their jobs, their welfare, as we're being told, and they buy into the BNP rhetoric. And therefore, when we talk about Islamophobia in society, we must also address the issue of the war and its effect on the increase and the rise and the hike in Islamophobia. Now, by all intents and purposes, and I'm going to end, by all intents and purposes, we are losing this battle. Why? We are losing it simply because, as I said, those whom we proclaimed as our enemies and those we wanted to get to rid the world of, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, are stronger now than they ever were before. More importantly, not only them as men in arms are stronger, but their ideologies have spread far wider. And that is the problem that the whole world now has to face. Now we're thinking the next step is Yemen, Somalia. Now we're thinking of Bangladesh. Now we're talking about other regions, even in Europe, in Eastern Europe, Bosnia and Romania and the such. We're talking about places where that kind of ideology can thrive. We have created a war zone of the entire world as a result of our fight with Al-Qaeda and Taliban, and now we're talking with them. We're negotiating with them. We're discussing with them what kind of role they can play in the future government of Afghanistan. The drug trade is thriving like never before, because you know what? Before, people used to transport their harvest by mule and donkey. Now they have, cars, and they have SUVs, and they have Humvees, and they have 4x4s that they can transport them more efficiently, far more efficiently. And recently, late in 2009, an American commander said, it's silly of us to suggest that we want to close down the drug trade, because that is our way of negotiating with the locals. You can't hope for the support and help and backing of a local village when you're going to cut off their lifeline. And therefore what do? You actually give them more seeds. You help them to transport their trade so they thrive, and maybe somewhere down the line they'll be sympathetic to your cause. So you see how totally reverse everything has become. So the drug trade is thriving like nowhere else. The government of Afghanistan is amongst the most corrupt in the world. In fact, the election results recently were so shamefully corrupt that no one came out and endorsed it until much, much later. They were so ashamed of the corruption and the level of corruption in the Afghani voting system. So many people have been killed, and so many villages have been wiped out, and so many families have been eradicated, that now, and I'm going to end with this, that now we have managed. When we started all this off, we said we have no, well, that's what George W. Bush said, we have no qualms, we have no quarrels with the Afghan people. It's their regime that we have a problem with. Note, it wasn't Afghanistan that carried out the 9/11 attacks. It wasn't the Afghani people who planned, plotted, or supplied any kind of backing for those attacks. Simply, they were told, you are housing someone whom we want. And now where is he? Where is he? No one knows. But now those people whom we had no quarrel with, those people who did us no harm whatsoever, those people who really weren't our enemies at all, we have managed to make our staunch enemies. Because you know what? You kill one person, it's not just a number. It's a face, it's a name, it's an aspiration, it's a dream, it's a career. And more importantly, it's a family and a circle of friends and loved ones. You've not just killed one person, you've made an enemy of an entire circle of people. You kill 1 million, you've made an enemy out of a nation. That will never ever be forgotten for us. And our contribution in the war is something that we have to recognize. We have to hold our hands up and say that our government with our tax money waged this war against the Afghani people. And believe it or not, this will come back. This will come back to our doorsteps, because that was exactly our message when we started this off in 2001. We said we do not want to kill anyone's loved one, because one day our loved ones will be killed. We don't want to burn anyone's house down, because one day our houses will be burned down. We don't want anyone living in fear, because one day we will also live in fear. Thank you very much.